Hello and welcome back to yet another episode of the Book Tribe podcast. And today I am thrilled to be joined by the book shepherd herself, Judith Briles, publishing consultant and book marketing expert. Welcome, Judith.
I am thrilled to be with you.
Oh, I'm very excited. I've been searching all over kind of LinkedIn and your website to kind of learn more about you, and there's tons. So I'm hoping that we're going to get some great stuff out of this conversation today. To begin with, and now usually I prepare these questions, but I've completely not done that today, and we're going to do some very random, very off the top of my head, bookish quickfire questions to get to know you. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Awesome stuff. So the first question that I'm going to ask is, which genre do you think, if you could kind of personify it a little bit, which genre do you think would have the most gossip and why?
Oh, which genre? Oh, well, probably romance would be one of them. And the other would be memoirs and some of the celebrity memoirs that come out.
Oh, do you know what? That's so good, because that is like real life gossip, isn't it? I'd never even thought about that.
If you're looking for juicy gossip, there's a lot of tells. And I tell you, the ones that, let's talk about the celebrity memoirs. We had two big ones here, and I'm sure in the United States and across the pond, that would have been Britney Spears,
okay, yeah,
and Barbara Streisand. And major tells within those, that, and although Brittany is certainly a tad younger than Barbara Streisand, Barbara, she got into some things. And I think sometimes the older memoirs, or when they come back again and say, wait, there's more, that then they start really sometimes even dishing dirt. I mean, it's quite interesting. But if you're looking for gossip, something that's chewy, that's probably where I would go.
That's such a great answer. And I'm feeling like I've not read a memoir in a while, but the ones that you've picked out, the Britney Spears and the Barbara Streisand one, and I love Barbara, so I'm going to have to give that one a read.
It's a biggie. It's like 1,000 pages. It's huge.
Okay, I'll put in the time.
Or sometimes, Amazon's UK as well. But if you're in the like the Kindle Unlimited program, where there's like 400 people, you can download 20 books a month. I don't know if either one of those are in that the publisher allowed them to be in it. But actually, the little juicy part about that is that for an author, if they're in the program, that for every page that gets read or flipped, they actually make money.
See, I've always wondered about that, and we're already into the good stuff, because I wondered, like, with Kindle Unlimited, how do authors make money from Kindle Unlimited?
Oh, they can do very well. I have a client of mine who writes fantasy.
Yes.
Fantasy makes stuff up all over the place. And he gets anywhere from 2 to 400,000 page turns. He grosses, take home, I should say nets, over $2,000 a month from people just turning pages and previewing. And often what happens is people use it as a preview, and then they go buy the book because they want the book. So
if they love it enough, they'll buy it, won't they?
It's very so. For those of our viewers who are authors, if you make your book available to the Kindle Unlimited program, here's my first big tip. I want you to make sure you start using hashtag Kindle Unlimited all together, so it goes into those eyeballs to see your book might be a fit.
Yeah, because you do see an awful lot on social media, like people say KU reads, or the hashtag Kindle Unlimited is so highly used, because a lot of people at the moment can't necessarily afford the habit of buying a book, ebook, or
it's a great way.
Every week.
So all my books, which are for the publishing books, How to Avoid the Book Publishing Blunders, which every author should probably take a peek at, the author's walk to keep you walking, to the how to create a crowdfunding campaign, because I know you have that in the UK.
Yes.
That one, and the one Snappy Sassy Salty Success quotes. All right, all those are in the Kindle Unlimited store, and so that's the way you can do that. And so I would take people take advantage of them. And then I started writing historical fiction last year. And when you and I first put this first our show for your viewers, listeners together, that I actually had a freebie of my first book that came out last year called Secret Journey, and Brian Barnes is my co-author, and it was just totally free. Well, guess what? It's free in Kindle Unlimited, and you can pick up book 2, which has got juicy stuff in it. You go book 2, The Secret Hamlet, in Kindle Unlimited. So that's a great way to not have to worry about shipping and that kind of stuff, to say, gee, do I kind of like this story? So
Yeah.
that's a thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've failed completely at my bookish questions, but
Well,
nevertheless,
guess
we've
what?
gotten
We're coming
straight.
back.
Wait, well, no, because we've gotten straight into it. And actually, I do want to understand a little bit more about you and what role you play. What
Yeah.
really is, if we focus on the publishing consultant piece,
Yeah.
I've never really come across that before. What exactly is that? What do you do?
Well, I actually trademarked it, and for me, I started working. I've always helped authors. I started publishing in the '80s, Erica. That was when my first book
Yeah.
came out. Okay, and I was only going to be a one book pony. No one told me that books breed more books. No one told me. And now I'm writing my 46th and 47th ones right now. But I had always had my hand out to help other authors, encourage them. And I would introduce them to my agents, and I would do this. I never saw myself doing it as a profession and even taking it to a whole nother level. And that happened in 2006. And I was speaking up in Vancouver to an audience of 5,000, and I fell. I didn't fall off the stage. I stepped on a gob of ice cream in a hotel lobby and ended up with a brain injury. I could no longer do the speaking I was doing globally. I couldn't travel the way I was using. I had to learn to think again.
Yeah.
I still can't do math. But my confession to everyone, I can't balance a checkbook. I can't. I hire
I can
people
do
to
that
do that.
either. So.
But Erica, what opened up is like this creative side. So when I was talking to authors, I used to always, encourage them, and especially the ones, self-publishing. I was with New York for many, many years. 18 of my books were with New York. And before I divorced them and figured out, wait a minute, there's a lot more here. And I can make a lot more money if I would learn this business, which is what I did. And I hope we get into some of the business stuff of this. And so I figured I was the breadwinner in my home. I had kids. How am I going to do this? And what I realized, I started when I was talking to people, I started, visualizing what their book looked like. It just started flowing in. And so what turned off on my analytical, mathy side, the creative side opened up. So we went in that direction. And I realized people would come to me. They would fly to me. They would come out and sometimes spend 3 and 4 days as I put it together. And then what I just fully crossed over, I started doing a little bit, but I fully crossed over after the accident, and I got my head back and I could read. I couldn't read for a year and a half, literally.
Wow.
And I got that back. And then I just it's just started building. So for me, here's what the book I do as a book shepherd. I'm also would be called a developmental editor. Is that a phrase you use there? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, a development editor. So I will go in and gut it. And sometimes I have to tell my clients that it's not a good idea if I care more for your book than you do. We're in this party together. And my goal is to create successful authors. I've had 500 authors become bestsellers and get out there and move them away. But I kind of do, as for me, for the book shepherd is the ultimate guide. And that I will put together a game plan for you. I like you, I actually love marketing. And of course, a lot of authors say, oh, no, 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 no. I just want to write. Do get over that, people, because marketing is essential. And my saying is, if it's to be, it's up to me. If your book is to be successful, it's up to you. And it's not someone you can hire. You can get help, but the real guts and brains and the passion and the vision and energy reside within you. So that's what I just always bring to the table. So when they say to tell me about their book, I will stop them if they go on too long. I want you to be able to tell me succinctly what this book is about. And I don't want you to do it in 3 pages. I want it to be done in a couple of sentences. So I work with people with that. That's part of the game plan. And I always write the back cover copy because that's that marketing side of me. And to write it with intrigue and with a copy editor's hat on. So I do that. And then it's just a matter of, okay, I bring together the designers for the book, the interior, the cover. If we need illustrators, I will have a few people I will recommend for that. Even though I do that developmental editing side, I always have another editor in play. Always. And I think another tip I'll give to our listeners and viewers is that the best thing you can do is to, when you get down to the trail, John, my husband, hates it when I use the word vomit, but I want you just to vomit these words out and let it go from your heart. Then you go back afterwards with your head. And the perfectionism is going to kill your chances for success. You have to understand there's little hiccups in it as you go in different directions in it, but that write from your heart and then you edit with your head on that.
Yeah. I kind of want to go back to what you said a second ago, which was the blurb piece, because that's not something we've touched on yet on the podcast, but I understand what you mean, how important the blurb is. I've read blurbs where I've been like, oh, okay, maybe I'll read it. And then I actually read it and I'm like, the blurb is nothing like the book. The book's amazing, but the blurb doesn't give me that same feeling of intrigue. So what would your kind of thoughts be around blurb writing?
Well, it's like endorsements and things like that. That a lot of times endorsements could go on for a paragraph, even 2. A review could be many paragraphs. A blurb is a line, but it brings it together. And I think one of the, I don't know about the Times. What's your major newspaper there in London?
Oh gosh, I don't read the newspaper.
There's got to be
maybe like the Guardian or something.
Okay, so let's say the Guardian. All right, so the big one here in the U.S. would be the New York Times. All right, the New York Times every Sunday has a very special book review section. I save them up, and then I do workshops so everyone gets one, because I said we're going to go into these different genres, because whether it's cookbooks or whether it's fiction, whether it's nonfiction, whether it's mystery, suspense, whatever. The books that are in the top 10 or 20, whatever it is, and through their sales, they will have the title and the author. Sometimes it's publisher, but usually just the title, the author, and then one line, maybe 10 words. that does this summing up. So a blurb would be an excerpt from someone who's written a testimony. I'm looking for an excerpt. It's a dystopian novel set in blah, 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 that includes betrayal, mystery, intrigue, and lust. Okay, all right? We've said, all right, so I'm ready for lust, or I'm ready for intrigue, or whatever it is in dystopian. I love dystopian. What you're doing in that blurb is talking to your reader. So you need to pull in. When I'm in a bookstore and signing books, and we do a lot with Barnes and Noble here.
Yeah.
And we love it since the UK CEO took it over. So much better. So much better. In fact, I named them the Community Bookstore of the Year at the last Hall of Fame induction, but that's another story.
Very nice.
So, because they want to work with local authors. They're not afraid of local authors. That's kind of the deal that came down. And that when I am the greeter, I will take 10 authors in the store at a time. We do what they call book fairs here.
Yeah.
And doing them in. And I think the tip for all of you who have books, when you are in meeting people, if you're a book signing, start it with a question. Do you like historical fiction? No, I really don't. What I like is sci-fi at da-da-da. I know that they're not my author.
Yeah.
Okay. Or do you like, do you read or like historical fiction, or do you know anyone who does? Okay. Now, but I'm doing, and then you go silent and let them say. And if they say, yes, I do, I just say, may I tell you about my book? And I'm holding it and I put it in their hands. Anyway, so now we're talking sales and marketing. But
but that's sort of what I wanted to ask you, because to me, having that clear kind of 10-word, one sentence description of what the book is almost like the core of your marketing agenda. Like if we were to say, if we were to start creating a campaign around that, that's much more
okay,
simple.
Perfect. All right, so if I was I'm going to reach for a couple of my books, okay?
Go ahead.
I was going to, this is a book. See, this is a book I wrote, and it's called How to Create a $1 Million Speech, right?
Nice.
Which I did. So when I was getting to what you just said, that keyword, core, what's the core message? And I like, when I'm working with authors, when I'm teaching my unplugged book publishing workshop, that getting to the core, and what the core was for this book was speaking is the number one way to sell books. That's the core message. Mm-hmm. Okay. So in here, we show you how to structure, how to market, how to do a variety of different things. I even give people my contract. You have permission to copy it, copy, paste, use whatever you want. But what's the core message? Every book has a core message. Mm-hmm. And it's like children's books. In those 32 pages that are fairly typical in a young kiddo book, illustrated, there is always a core message. And it could be just about friendship. Could be about don't bully. It could be about different things. So, but it's so essential to understand what's your core message, and then you work towards that, and your marketing has to go towards that.
So is having, so I'm guessing what I'm getting at is that then the first step of creating a marketing agenda, or are there other things that people need to be doing prior to kind of?
Well, I think it is. And I had a breakout book back in 1987. It was called Woman to Woman, From Sabotage to Support. It was based on my doctorate dissertation, and the theme was on ethics. Do women undermine other women? Okay?
Yes.
So, very typically, authors, when they're asked about the book, they will say, well, everyone should have my book. that is nonsense. They should not. Uh, and my saying for this is the more you niche yourself, the bigger your market becomes. It is so much easier to become the whale in the pond versus the sardine in the sea. So, but working towards that and putting that together is where, I always try to figure out to go. So for Woman to Woman, I was really new. I mean, I had a bestseller already. My very first book, which was to be the only book, was The Woman's Guide to Financial Savvy. It was a course I taught. It was, this is 1981, way ahead of itself, way ahead of itself. And then they started multiplying. That's all I can say. And then I went through an embezzlement, and a good friend and a partner embezzled $1 million and left us broke and homeless and all kinds of stuff. So, and I had to go back to school to figure out how to unravel the mess she had created. So I didn't lose I ended up losing everything, but I had to save it for other people. And that became the course. So when I was trying to, I didn't understand any of this stuff. I couldn't, get my head all around it. And I would start off, this is a book for the workplace. And I didn't really define what the workplace was. The real workplace was for female-dominated workplaces. But I didn't know that. I mean, my stats all showed it. I did massive research, but I didn't articulate it. Well, it's for women who in the workplace. So it's for every woman. No, it wasn't. And what they're doing to each other is awful. And, I got it defined down, and I went back to my study, and the pitch became, contrary to popular belief, men don't discriminate. And and then I would say, I pause, and then I would say, women do. Okay. Now that pulls in, you need to tell me more about what you're saying. Tell me more. And then I could get into you get into it. I did over 1,500 media interviews on that, including getting a 4-page spread in People magazine.
Wow. There you go.
When you can find that core, what your core is, and you can bring it around, and it was, our data showed that if there is a saboteur in your midst, and it's a woman, she is more likely to target another woman. Men don't discriminate. They'll shaft anybody. They'll even tell you, hey, tomorrow at 1:00 you are going down, because they want you to enjoy it. They're ready for it. Women may not say that. They may say, oh, I love your earrings. And then tomorrow at 1:00, and God, there's something in my back. So it's a different thing. Now, not all women undermine women. But if a woman is going to be, unethical or undermine another, her target is most likely a woman.
And I'd love to talk to you more about that, because I'm super interested in that. But when it comes to kind of the blunders that people make, as you kind of mentioned earlier, what are kind of the things that you see happen an awful lot in sort of the marketing or publishing of a book?
Well, the first thing is they don't recognize this is a business. This is a business.
Yeah, that's a common theme on this podcast.
And there are 2 key assets. One is the author, and one is the book.
Mm-hmm.
And so both have profit potential. And understanding that, now what I learned is that when you learn how to do what I call the cash cow 2-step, which is your mouth, your mouth is number one and your book is the other. When you use your mouth to support your book, you get speaking engagements. People pay often for that. Or there could be trade-offs that they all buy books. I mean, it's a money transitions. This is not a barter type thing. And so you have those. that go along. And so each one of the blunders is they don't recognize this is a business, and that there are expenses, there is education. You need to learn. You need to invest in the phrase lifelong learning. You need to study what genre you're in. You need to know who the players are. You need to read their books and chew over what phrasing they're using, so you will become a better writer. You will. And the more you write, the better you get. The more you write, the faster you go. I mean, you can do all those things. So those are really important to understand that this is a business. The second thing is you are not the final editor. And more books get beat up at awards and in reviews because the editing is either crappy or it's non-existent, and that your mom, but my mom is a really great teacher. Well, that's really wonderful, but she's not an editor. And there are editors who some of them specialize in genres. They could be like mystery people. They will know what to look for. What's missing? Do we have enough Easter eggs out there that little clues might come up, or is this thing going to come out of so left field you won't even know who the bad dude is? And they're children's editors on that. And so it's like I can whip through a nonfiction book really fast. I know nonfiction quite well. Over 40 of my books have been nonfiction type books, and they all have our own little formulas to it. Like, here's the problem, here's the causation, here's the effect, here's the solution. Okay, by the way, you're the solution. So that makes you an asset if this is what you're writing about. So not getting a professional editor in, and I usually have two stages. I mean, I'm often writing with I'm almost like a ghost sometimes. I've gotten so involved with it. There is a regular, like a proofreading type editor, and I always have one other person come in after the book has been formally laid out. I mean, this is what it's going to look like when it's printed, that comes in looking for different things. Number one, I've been in the book so much, I'm not going to even see anything anymore, as the author will not.
Yeah.
You need new eyeballs looking at it, and even looking, does the headers match the chapter title? And they're looking for drop lines. They're looking for upside down punctuation. They're looking for things. Does this make any sense at all to you? On the editing, as it's a business. You need editor. You need professional help. I mean, I can tell a DIY in a nanosecond. And today's authors are, I mean, they're allowing too many mistakes to get through. Sometimes a typo can get it. We all do it. I mean, but when you hit 3 typos on the first 2 pages, there's something wrong here.
And yeah, absolutely. And it makes such a difference to the reader as well, and their experience of, I'm probably not going to read that author again. Like, it just kind of has that knock-on effect, doesn't it?
I'll close a book. There's too much. If I don't, I don't have time. I read a lot, and I just said, I don't like namby-pamby reading. I like action on it. We all have different things. I'm not a romance reader.
I'm a huge romance reader.
But I'm not.
Obsession.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm, I'll give you a couple of authors you might like to look at.
Absolutely. Send them over.
Yeah. But one's a Canadian. Might be perfect for you to have on. Deb Armstrong. Yes. The Forever series. That's good. It's good. Okay. But that there are just a variety of things that, but so the business, the editing, not getting professional designers. I want a book cover designer. And with all the stuff that's going on now here in the United States, and I know it's in the UK, that AI is all over the place. You cannot copyright your book if you've used AI. You can't register with the copyright office.
Yeah.
And
I
actually,
know that Amazon's now asking you if I think because my dad writes business books, and he said that when he uploaded the books to, I think it was Kindle, KDP or something, that it asked you
KDP.
if you'd written it using
Yep,
AI.
they do. Yep.
Mm.
That's the KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. That's Amazon's arm. And I don't beat up Amazon. Thank God for Amazon, that opened doors for so many of us to do things in so many ways.
Mm.
So
But
get professional people, but they need to understand your genre. A children's author is not going to be the cover designer for your mystery suspense, most likely. They're deep into cartoonish or different types of characters. So understand them, check them out. And I think it's important, going back to the business side, to recognize, if someone tells you, oh yeah, you can publish your book for $297, they're freaking lying. It takes it to really to bring in a professional designer, to bring in the editors. I mean, you're going to get. I actually budget $4,000 for that, US,
mm.
for those for me, and I'm way ahead of the game for most people. But I still pay to go out. I can't do it all, so doing that, and then the next big mistake is they don't think marketing. Most authors, I've had more pushback. I can see the heels digging in. That well, I'll think about marketing when my book is done. No, you actually should be marketing when you start writing. Okay, so if you didn't do that, how about today? And it's building your influence, starting to getting some traction out there, that people know you. And there's so many ways, you as a marketing person, there are so many ways to start building a brand. I think understanding that you have a brand that's part of your marketing, in there, that you go on out and there's some, whether it's part of color recognition, whether it's a certain font only you can use because you created it. I mean, I don't know, but there's just certain things that you could start doing to build that out, and you should start doing it from the get-go. Or as I just said, if you didn't do it, that would be starting today. The other things is to one of my personal keepers. I tell this to everyone I work with. If you don't say no, your yeses are worthless. You've got to, when you're in this stage, especially coming down to the final, I do see there is a light. There is a light here. You have to have on your blinders and become myopic, who you let in your space so you can get to the light. And the other thing is, I think so important, is don't do well what you have no business doing. And I think that's where you have to really value what you can do well. I mean, I can do a lot of stuff, but I also have 2 VAs who work full time for me. And that I always write. I will not, I don't even write my content. I always write my content. But I let them do the distributions out into the social media world. And social media, geez, I wish I had that, Erica, when I started writing in 81. So
Yeah.
you can do a lot. So those are some of the big mistakes: not recognizing as a business, not doing marketing, not getting professional editing, not bringing professionals in to help with the design and bring them in early. So, because what I love when I can work on a cover, even knowing that the cover can change, but it's like having that carrot dangling. Okay, okay, there's the prize. There's where the squirrel gets to go. So,
Yeah. So I'm just thinking then, like, the industry of how to kind of write, publish, and
mhm,
market a book, it seems like there's just kind of not a set way of doing it. Like, there are options of how you can do it.
right.
Um, but if there is someone, let's say we have an author
Mhm,
who has written one or a couple of books,
mhm,
um, they have tried marketing those books, but they're not seeing the success of those agendas as they would have hoped. What areas would you be looking to first? Obviously, we've spoken about kind of that core value, but then what next?
Well, I think what's really important to understand that you need to have the double P's in your life. One is called persistence and the other is perseverance. You have to recognize that this stuff doesn't happen overnight. And when I hear authors say, well, my goal is to sell 1 million books. And I said, well, so you were going to set yourself up for failure from the very beginning? The odds are last year, 2023, only 8 books sold 1 million copies. 8.
Yep. During
the pandemic, the main year, I think it was 2021.
Yes.
Five authors sold. 5 books sold 1 million copies. And they were all for kiddos because it was all this home study stuff. Okay. So
right.
I think you need to be really realistic and understand what the numbers are out there. And then figure out, okay, how can I circumvent them? Or how can I build on that? That's where I learned that I have sold over 1 million copies cumulative of my books, and 95% of them have not been sold in a store. They have been sold on the outside with me connecting and people then wanting to take me home with them because I'm going to leave on a jet plane. And I think it's important to understand that really early on, that I've got to start getting, so how am I going to market these things? And you do need to keep writing. That's another thing. You need to keep your foot in the door, and writing on them. So I may have got off your question, Erica.
No, but that's it. It's the double P's, isn't it?
Persistence. Yeah, persistence.
I know that, from my work as a marketer, that actually these kind of 90-day campaigns of really trying to see, what works and what doesn't work throughout that time. And then, not just, oh, it's not working, and then panicking and just shoving loads of, throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that it sticks.
I like the spaghetti thing. That we would call that BB gun marketing. That you just scatter it all over the place, and maybe Velcro, maybe something. And when I used to talk to authors about New York, because that was the big thing. Oh, if New York picks me up, they will take care of it. No, they won't. They won't. They expect you to market the book.
Mm-hmm.
They might write a press release for you. But and they'll put the packaging together, but it's going to be you, because they've got other things that they're going to be working on next. It's called Next. So what the good news is that, and this is why I am a self-confessed New York snob. I thought only legitimate authors published with New York, or if I was in the UK, London, or Germany, Frankfurt, only. And that's just such hogwash, that the designers are out there. You can get them. That putting together editors, they're certainly out there. It's going to be the marketing, coming right back to what you do, is the marketing. And someone who gets your book, you can look at it on a long-term. You have to think long-term, really very long-term. I think for most cases, certainly fiction, you got an evergreen book. And nonfiction, you may have a gasp because it falls out. But there's also evergreen nonfiction books. So it's where you go with that and what you do. And then the other P you have to avoid is the perfection P. Mm-hmm. Because perfection can set you up for failure or never get published.
And just talking about publishing then, so what would you say, because we've kind of spoken on the podcast before about kind of the benefits and the downsides of, self-publishing or traditional publishing. What do you think is the most important thing for an author to consider for themselves in terms of which route they go down?
I had 4 components. Okay, so and I don't know what the stats are in the UK. I do know what the stats are in New York. That the New York houses publish roughly 10,000 books a year. But there's over 1 million books published every year. So you can just say, oh my God, it's sardine time. You're in this vast sea competing with all that. New York houses have the money that they can spend to buy shelf space in a store. Stores do not want to carry any author unless there is an absolute dedicated effort to drive people into bookstores to buy them. And I think that's very important for people to understand, all authors to understand that. Oh, but I want my book. It's the cover's so beautiful. It will look so great in the window. And what, dear reader, what, dear author, are you doing to drive people to go in to support that bookstore and ask for your book? And the odds are nothing. So, coming back to, all of this, I always looked at when I did the crossover. And I'll never forget the morning I did the crossover, because I told you I was a New York snob. Only legitimate authors were published with New York. I got a call. I had just taken back the rights of one of my books, and I was speaking in Seattle on that book. I got a call from their marketing person in the hospital I was going to be, no, it was the bank I was going to be speaking for their customer base. And they asked me if I could contact the publisher to see if I could get a slight discount. They'd like to order a few books. Okay, so I have just taken the book back. I have bought the remaining inventory. I own all of 60 books. A few books in my number count is less than 60. So I said, I'm sure I can. And they said, well, I said, do you think that, what about if I can get a 30% discount off the retail price? She said, that would be great. That would be great. I said, well, I'm sure that will work. She says, great. We want 1,000 copies. So now I have just made a commitment. I believe in New York, but I have now the rights to this book. So I had a short talk with the plant in the corner, my by my chair, and we said, we'll make it work. And that's how I jumped in, Erica. And then I went on the search for the cover designer, the interior designer. The only mistake I made was the printer. The printer was not so great, but everything else was fine. And I was able to negotiate enough money that I got 2,000 copies. So now I'm a bookseller. And they came back and bought another 500. So now I'm on this fast, my God, treadmill is going fast to learn about this thing truly called back office publishing. This is what I can say today. For people who desire to be picked up by a major publisher, for heaven's sakes, that's your plan A. And you should go for it. But plan A needs to have a time limit on it. And at the same time, you are working and writing and developing, because plan A, you're going to have to turn in your marketing plan because they expect you to market this baby, that you should be working on plan B is, what if it doesn't get picked up? Because, often there are sell-by dates on books that they need to be, that there's a timing factor, and especially for nonfiction books. So what's the when there? And that you can work from plan B is, okay, if no one picks it up, I'll be ready to go because I haven't waited. Typically what authors do is they go on, like I'll be a bridesmaid, and always a bridesmaid. I'm never picked up. No one wants to marry me. And that can go on for decades. So plan B puts it parallel, and at some point you trigger and go this way. I look at 4 things. One, and I ask my authors, is quality important to you? Is the quality of what your book looks like, feels like? Is control important to you? Do you want to have input of what the cover design should be? Do you want input of how it looks on the interior? Do you want input on what goes on the back cover? Do you want input? Do you want that kind of control? The next thing is I ask, what about timing? Is there a timing that you need this available? Typically, books now are anywhere from 18 months to even 2 years from the time it's accepted in a publishing house. So, right now we're in the year 2024. Do I want to wait till 2026? Timing. And then the fourth is called money. The typical book, nonfiction in the life of a book sells 5,000 copies. What does that mean in money? That means in money around $3,000 to $3,500. That is not very much for you putting all these years in and doing, plus you don't get it all at once. It's dribble, 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 dribble. Fiction is actually less. So quality, control, timing, money, all of those things were important to me. When I was on that bridge, I was on this bridge and I crossed it, I never looked back. I never looked back. And I can tell you from that happened like in 1990. So over 30 years ago. From 1987, I can tell you, I know what my numbers are. From 1987 through today, I have grossed over $5 million in speaking fees and book sales. Cash revenue. So, is money important to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I mean, we want rewards. And I also ask my authors, what does success look like? For some, it's just having the book. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
For some, it has the media call them. Get that. For some, it is having people inviting you in to speak. Get that. For some of them is having the local TV show featuring you. I get all of that. But what does success mean to you?
What a way to end that section. And Judith, we're going to finish in just a moment. And I'm really upset because I want to talk to you even more. There's so much that I can
do it again, Erica. We can do it again.
I might take you up on that, Judith, and just talk about something slightly different. But for today, if we were to end today's session with one piece of advice from you for authors of the modern day, what would you say?
Wow, number one, I would say do it, but do it with planning. You need planning. When people sometimes told me about their book, that it's not really a book for the general public. It might be what we call a legacy book for family, friends, that kind of thing, which would change the numbers and the dynamics with what you'd want to do and how much you'd want to invest of your time, your energy, and your money to bring it about. And I personally feel that there are too many books being published because they don't have the thought and caring behind it. For me, when you think about the quality and the control, your presentation, that means you're thinking, and if I'm your consumer, you're thinking about me. You're thinking about what I'm looking for. I do a Friday morning coaching with 20 authors every Friday morning at 7 a.m. My time. And that if someone said, Judith, are you bullying him? And I said, no, I am not. I'm doing an intervention. and because it was about his cover and he was all over this place. It has to have this element and this element and this. And I said, no, narrow it down and be focal that you'll get, for your marketing. Let's bring in on one elegant piece. Make it simple and think about your reader. It's not about you. I want you to like your cover, but it's not designed for you. It's designed for what your readers are looking for, or their expectations with this. And that's just so important to grasp and go for. Because I want to encourage people. It's like, this is, Erica, this is my last book I wrote for authors, The Author's Walk.
Nice.
and it's about finding your voice and your platform. It's the book I wish I had when I first started writing. This is for the aspiring author, or for the author who has lost their mojo, the author's block, and you're just trying to get it back. So you're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Oh my gosh, we all make mistakes. But to be able to write your words and share your storytelling to help other people, to maybe save lives, you never know when your words will land in the right space, the right place, the right time, and someone, it's the lifeline that goes out. That's pretty powerful.
I couldn't agree more. And Judith, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate your time and your insight and your expertise. And obviously, we'll provide any kind of website links and things in the podcast description, and also on our podcast webpage. But once again, thank you so much. It's been such a treat.
Thank you. My treat too.